The rise of ancient civilizations paved the way for advances in science and technology. These advances during the ancient period allowed civilizations to flourish by finding better ways of communication, transportation, self organization, and of living in general.
One of the ancient period invention was eye makeup. Egyptians invented eye makeup as far back as 4000 BC, and since then, it never got out of style. Egyptians had to work with what was available in their environment, so they used their natural resources to create cosmetics. Some of their natural resources are galena, a black paint, or more commonly known as kohl, and a mineral called malachite powder, which provided a green color for eye makeup that was so greatly favored at the time. The green mineral was applied on the eyelid, while the kohl liner was mostly used around the eyes and also on the eyebrows and eyelashes for added definition. Cosmetics were certainly used for the purpose of beautification, but for Egyptians it was used for health and protection. The smoky kohl liner was thought to repel flies, protect the eyes from the sun rays, and ward off infection. It also provided psychic protection, which is protection against evil because eyes without makeup were thought to be vulnerable to the evil eye. Egyptian makeup greatly influenced the use of makeup today, not just for beautification but to take makeup to a new extreme, like creating face art with deep meanings.
The Romans first invented what today we call hydraulic cement-based concrete. They built numerous concrete structures, including the Pantheon in Rome, one of the finest examples of Roman architecture that survives to this day, which has a 42-meter diameter dome made of poured concrete. The name concrete comes from the Latin concretus, which means to grow together. This is a good name for this material, as the chemical hydration process, which mainly occurs over the time scale of hours and days, causes the material to grow together from a viscoelastic, moldable liquid into a hard, rigid solid. In our world today, concrete has become ubiquitous, and in fact, it is hard to imagine modern life without it. About 5 billion tons of concrete are used around the world each year, enough for close to 1 ton for each person per year, at a volume of about 400 liters per person. The cement used mostly in today's concrete is called Portland cement. The process to produce Portland cement was invented by Joseph Aspidin in the early 1800s in England. The name Portland may have been originally a marketing ploy, as Portland building stone was very popular in England at that time, and Aspidin may have wanted people to favorably compare concrete made with his cement to be popular building stone. The precursor to concrete was invented in around 1300 BC when Middle Eastern builders found that when they coated the outsides of their pounded clay fortresses and home walls with a thin, damp coating of burnt limestone, it reacted chemically with gases in the air to form a hard, protective surface. This wasn't concrete, but it was the beginning of the development of cement, which is an ingredient of concrete. In the early times, communities needed sturdy homes since shelter is a basic human need. When people discovered how concrete can be developed, they utilized it in order to fulfill the said need. It became the beginning of structures until this time, where concrete has always been considered as a major element in the building and construction industry. The invention of concrete has always helped people in developing their homes because the sturdy structure of concrete has always helped the homes of people to be able to be strong enough to protect the people who live inside the homes from the harsh environment of nature. The only negative impact of concrete is that it destroys natural infrastructure without replacing the ecological functions that humanity depends on for fertilization, pollination, flood control, oxygen production, and water purification. Concrete can take our civilization upwards, just like in the case of Burj Khalifa, but it also pushes the human footprint outwards, sprawling across fertile topsoil and choking habitats. The biodiversity crisis, which many scientists believe to be as much of a threat as climate chaos, is driven primarily by the conversion of wilderness to agriculture, industrial estates, and residential blocks.
The alarm clock was invented in the time of ancient Greece. The idea of a alarm clock came from a Hellenistic engineer and inventor called Ctesibus. Ctesibus made a system of dropping pebbles on a gong to make a sound, which is the first alarm clock. The dropping pebbles were set to end a specific time. In Greece, the alarm clock could be used in many ways. It can alert you when an hour goes by or when it's time to eat. Since they didn't have the technology we have, the alarm clock was maybe the most advanced invention at that time. Classical Greece influenced the alarm clock in many ways. Without an alarm clock, you may wake up late for school and miss the bus. An alarm clock goes off to what time they set it to. The modern alarm clocks we have making a ringing sound showing the time.
This is an odometer. It is an instrument used for measuring the distance traveled by a vehicle, such as a bicycle or car. The device may be electronic, mechanical, or a combination of the two. Before, odometer is simply a device attached to a vehicle that measures the distance traveled. Regardless of who invented it, odometer was widely used in the late Hellenistic period and by the Romans, indicating the distance traveled by a vehicle. It helped revolutionize the building of roads by accurately measuring distance. The Romans were then able to carefully mark distances with milestones. The modern odometer is more accurate and more useful than traditional odos, with added features such as forward or backward distance measurement and 2 trip meters instead of 1.
Gassophites, invented by the ancient Greek, a combination of composite bow and a mechanism that would launch a projectile in enormous speed and power, which they are called crossbow. Before the invention, the purpose of weapons is easily harm. They are used in hunting, self-defense, and warfare. The Gassophites was a precursor to future variants of handheld crossbow, catapults, and ballista. During the ancient times, it was all about conquering other lands. Soldiers used swords, spears, and bow, but these had limited range and a lack of power, so they made this invention that would give them the advantage. The impact of this invention is it gave way in making modern weapons we know today. Modern weapons made hunting easier and efficient. Manufacturers made millions of dollars through making and selling these weapons. But it also affects society and politics. Weapons are also used in criminal activities and a threat in worldwide peace.
This invention is known as the water mill. It's a revolutionary invention that was used all over the world in terms of metal shaping, agriculture, and building. Before this was invented, people would manually grind things like grains, rice, flour, and more. But with this, it makes milling so much easier to do, and the modern invention of this is known as the hydraulic turbine. This invention helped in the economy because it speeds up the work process, and people from the ancient times can be able to sell ingredients in the market faster and in larger quantities. Through this invention, a lot of people got their source of income and produced a lot of different ingredients for cooking and baking.
The ancient Chinese compass. The ancient Chinese compass was made from iron oxide and the mineral ore. Iron oxide is also known as lodestone and magneta. It is the most popular style of the first Chinese compass, used as a lodestone which automatically points to the south and a bronze plate. The lodestone was carved into the shape of a spoon. The original use of the ancient Chinese compasses was for maintaining harmony and prosperity with one's environment and foretelling the future. In the ancient times, people traveled long distances with small boats and animals. They learned to navigate because surviving was not easy back then. People in ancient times memorized the position of the sun and the stars to be able to navigate the sea. The earliest Chinese magnetic compasses were possibly used to order and harmonize buildings in accordance with the geomantic principles of feng shui. These early compasses were made with lodestone, a form of mineral magnetite that is naturally occurring magnet and aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field. The ancient Chinese mainly used the compass for navigation to find their way home when traveling. The use of the compass for travel also gave them the advantage of being able to travel no matter what the weather condition is. If the clouds or fog masked the sun or the stars, they could still travel because the compass would point them in the right direction. Additionally, the compass was used to determine which direction brings good fortune or luck. If your home or business was placed in the right direction, then you would have a good life, including good health and much wealth. Today we know this practice as feng shui.
In the year 132 AD, a Chinese inventor Zhang Heng invented the first seismoscope. By that time, being the first kind of its kind, there were no instruments available to know if an earthquake had hit in other regions. People are very dependent only on messages from the regions where an earthquake occurred. Due to cultural reasons, the invention was created. During the old times, Chinese community believed that having an earthquake makes the yin and yang disturb and it creates heaven displeasure. These signs are required and crucial for the leader to know about it. The main impact of this invention is for the people to be alert when the earthquake will occur. In 138 AD, the device detects an earthquake and it is able to locate the exact place where the earthquake occurred. But unfortunately, the people do not believe immediately on the prediction but after receiving a message that the city hit by an earthquake.
Movable type is the system and technology of printing and typography that uses movable components to reproduce the elements of document, usually on the medium of paper. The world's first movable type printing technology for printing paper books was made of porcelain materials and was invented around 1040 after that in China during the Northern Song dynasty by the inventor Bai Sheng. Before printers existed, books had to be written by hand and had to be copied by hand to be mass-produced. This is obviously takes a very long time and is very tedious. By the use of movable type, producing multiple copies of text became easier. Long after that, printing industry became a booming business at that time. Around 1450, Johannes Gutenberg introduced the metal movable type printing press in Europe, along with innovations in casting the type based on a matrix and hand mold. The small numbers of alphabetical characters needed for European language was an important factor. The printing press may be regarded as one of the key factors fostering the Renaissance, and due to its effectiveness, its use spread around the globe.
Most lighthouses resemble tall towers and have a source of light inside. In the past, they were illuminated by things like oil lamps, which could only be seen for up to a few miles. Today, lighthouses use sophisticated illumination methods that use electricity and can be seen a long ways away. No matter when the lighthouses were made, they're always a curiosity because they're both beautiful and practical. There was a time when ships relied on lighthouses to help them find their way. With modern instruments that are aboard ships now, they aren't as important. However, people who have spent time in coastal areas probably even take their presence for granted. They're as much a feature of the landscape as the ocean itself.